This story starts rather dramatically. A 12-year-old boy was found by a neighbor after escaping from the home of Jody Hildebrandt. His wrists and ankles were duct taped, and he was suffering from wounds of deep laceration and malnutrition. The boy turned out to be the YouTube family vlogger star Ruby Franke's son, and Jody to be Ruby's business partner. The police rushed to respond to this emergency call, uncovering something much darker. Hello and welcome back to Briefcase Law, where we unpack the legal world, one case at a time. Ruby started her online career by sharing videos of her daily life, joining the thousands of others populating the internet at the time. Her channel 8 passengers followed the Franke family, which consisted of Ruby, her husband Kevin, and their 6 kids for routine, discipline, holidays, and home education. Audiences were drawn to the seemingly authentic and relatable content, with the channel gathering over 2 million subscribers at its peak. However, as viewers watched on, they saw something brewing beneath the surface of smiles and laughs. Concern began to grow as viewers judged Ruby's parenting practices, her approach being described as strict or even harsh. Viewers voiced alarm at incidents when children lost meal privileges or being assigned punishment like sleeping on a beanbag for weeks. By 2020, online petitions and posts urged authorities to intervene. Despite mounting criticism, the family's brand continued to thrive. Like other family vloggers, the Frankes blur the lines between private and public spheres, leveraging their child's milestones and struggles into marketable assets. This built up to the scene we began with. Upon arrival, law enforcers began a careful search of the premises. They came across a little girl, Ruby's 9-year-old daughter, terrified in the closet. She showed obvious signs of neglect and inadequate care. Medical examiners found the children subjected to starvation, forced labor, denial of basic needs, emotional abuse, and physical restraints. They were regularly submitted to isolation, denial of food and sleep, and psychological maltreatment by being called evil and possessed. These 2 youngest children of the family were immediately sent for hospitalization while Franke and Jody arrested. Reports and interviews conducted later gathered statements from the older children, all confirming that they have experienced some degree of harsh discipline and emotional abuse, although the physical abuse was concentrated on the youngest siblings. The court proceedings followed in December 2023, where Ruby pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse, a felony under Utah law. To briefly explain the counts, each count corresponds to specific arrests resulting in serious physical or emotional harm inflicted intentionally on 1 or more children. So when the court charged the 4 counts of aggravated child abuse, it means the prosecution charged them with 4 separate incidents or patterns of abuse, serious enough to meet the legal threshold of causing significant harm. Each count represents a felony offense carrying potential prison sentences, subject to judicial discretion and sentencing guidelines. For example, some charges stemmed from Ruby's admission of bounding her son's hands and feet while forcing her daughter to do labor under harsh conditions without shoes or water. Other charges came from separate physical and emotional factors compiled by reports from police and medical professionals, while some other charges came from when the prosecution characterized the conditions as a quote-unquote concentration camp-like setting, and provided ample evidence showing premeditated and ongoing abuse. Anyway, back to the case. Ruby reasoned for her actions through her extreme religious views, believing that their punishments were necessary to make the children quote-unquote repent for their imagined sins, and quote-unquote cast out evil spirits. Jody pleaded guilty later in that same month to the same charges as part of a plea agreement, which resulted in 2 other counts dropped. Both women accepted responsibility without going to trial. Ruby expressed remorse in court, thanking law enforcement and social workers for rescuing her children and acknowledging the justice of her charges. On February 20, 2024, Judge John J. Walton of Utah's 5th Judicial District Court sentenced both women to 4 consecutive prison terms, each ranging between 1 and 15 years, which was the maximum allowed for each count under Utah law. The sentences run consecutively, meaning the total maximum sentence is 60 years. However, Utah sentencing guidelines cap maximum consecutive sentences at 30 years. Due to this indeterminate sentencing system, the exact period Ruby and Jody will serve was determined by the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole during periodic reviews. Their initial parole hearings are scheduled for December 2026. So until that occurs, both remain incarcerated with a prison sentence of potentially 30 years maximum. They are required to complete regular mental health assessments and cognitive behavioral therapy. All 6 children were removed from Ruby's care after the investigation and placed into state custody. They were also provided medical and psychological support. This case prompted child protective agencies to increase scrutiny of children featured in online content, recognizing potential risks of exploitation. This case also led to the passage of a new Utah law in 2025 named the Child Influencer Protection Act, requiring creators making more than $150,000 annually from content featuring children to place 15% of earnings in a trust for the children, as well as enabling adults who were filmed as minors to petition platforms for content removal. These changes have caused a ripple effect. Spurring nationwide debate for children's digital rights. Many parents in the US have been taking legal action against Google and YouTube for privacy violations for collecting children, how child labor and privacy laws apply to family influencers, suggesting future regulatory changes. All of these signify positive changes to protect our youth. Even though this case was tragic, it doesn't mean that more should follow. Rather, it means that we must break the pattern. And that's our case closed for this episode. Thank you for tuning in to Briefcase Law.